Good morning, my fellow yogic travelers. I'm mighty glad to be alive today, and I hope that you are too, as we continue to live, laugh, love, learn, linger, and live the life we love. It's Thursday, so it's my story day. For those of you who have studied with me, and even those of you who don't, I'm big on reminding everybody the importance of pranayama, or breath. So many people don't take advantage of this natural, healing, curative, energizing, tranquilizing aspect of your own nervous system that you have, but you got to work it. There's a story from the Prashna Upanishad about these 5 sages that were seeking wisdom, and they found themselves finally in a hermitage where the old rishi, the old guru there, said, well, what are you looking for? And they said, we want to know which is the most important sense that sustains the body. He says, well, study here with me for a year. It'll quiet your mind down. You'll be ready to hear the truth. Well, they did it. So after a year, they asked him, which is the sense that's the most sustaining for the body? He says, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, there were 5 senses: hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. And they were sitting around and they were arguing with each one in a kind of boastful, arrogant manner. I'm the most important one to the body. If I wasn't in the body would suffer terribly. They say, all right, well, let's have a test. Each one of us leave the body and see how devastated the body is as a result of that. So each one in turn left the body, and hearing left the body and couldn't hear the human voice or beautiful music or the call of a bird. That wasn't good. And sight left the body and came back, and that wasn't good. You couldn't distinguish anything that was visual. You couldn't see flowers, you couldn't see the sky, you couldn't see other people. That was pretty bad. They tried now getting rid of the sense of smell. Smell left, and you couldn't tell the difference between dung and a sweet-smelling fruit. And that was not so good. And then the same thing with taste. Food meant nothing. I couldn't distinguish between a sweet taste, a sour taste, a pungent taste, a salty taste. That was bad. So food meant. And then, of course, touch left the body, and the body was like a clod. It couldn't tell the difference between like a piece of metal or light cotton or the touch of a human being. It was all really, really bad. And so I said, okay, well, now we see how devastated the body is without each one of us. Let's decide who's the most important one and which one leaves the body and causes the most difficulty. And just as they're about to decide, Prana said, I think you guys are totally on an ego trip, so I'm out of here. And as soon as Prana left, all the senses disappeared. And then when Prana came back, they revivified like a light switch being turned on. They realized, oh my God, without the vital energy, we are nothing. And so they all bowed down and paid respect to Prana, because without Prana, you can't sustain the body. And so your life begins with breath and ends with the end of breath. I suggest that you find your way of tapping into your own respiratory system. And if you want to just do it yogic style, pranayama is just so powerful. And there's a lot of esotericism connected to it, but that's secondary to make sure you breathe every day. All right, so for my friends with the disappointing affirmations, we're going to keep this up until we fulfill it, until we finish all of them. You can't change your past, but you can totally revise the shit out of whatever suits you, whenever it suits you. Just do revisionist history and you're fine. All right, for my friends who are doing the journal writing out there, when you think about your friends and those you feel closest to, what are the qualities that they demonstrate that you admire the most? And what are the qualities that you are happiest to share with them? That's a nice little reciprocity. Let me know how you're doing. I'll be glad to share what's going on in my world. All right, my teacher Ram Dass always used to say, you got to be aware of how you put yourself down when you think you don't have enough spirituality. He says, there's a place where you say, oh, he got it, I don't. That's a stage. Right, projecting on other people and not respecting or recognizing the spiritual aspect of your own life. And you can't collect this, like a book of stamps. You have to have faith that your spiritual life is going to unfold in a way that probably is going to surprise you until you understand how you can direct it and make choices and guide it in some way. The only way you can do this is you got to quiet your mind down. And the essence of meditation is really simple. It's like being in the audience in a stage, a show. And you see, the actors enter stage left, make their spiel center stage, exit stage right. So you're sitting there and you're meditating, and your thoughts are just like what happens with the wind. Oh, here it comes, oh, here it is, oh, there it goes. Yeah? Here it comes, here it is, there it goes. Just like that. And you watch your thoughts. They seem to bubble up, you see them full blown, and then they pass away, replaced by another thought. It's just part of the process. So give it space to be. You'll see how much clarity you get. And then you won't feel so claustrophobic in your thoughts. They're just simple thoughts to let go. And your mind maintains its spaciousness. Now, I've learned from my teacher that when I'm in my teaching mode, my job is to ensure that what I say the students are doing and not give them more information unless they've mastered to some extent what they've already been given. And so the emphasis is always on their weak points, trying to improve their practice by pointing out what they could be doing better. Now this leads you into, if you're not practicing yoga and you don't have a teacher to do that, you have to look for the chance occurrence, the opportunities where people can show you consciously or unconsciously, and you can wake up to the fact that I'm not doing what I said I was. Why am I going further when I'm not keeping my word and holding myself accountable? And can I look at, in the same way that a teacher would, where my personality flaws, vices, or weaknesses are, and work on that, and how that would improve my life? Well, when you do that, you start to find out, yes, it's true, there is a path that leads to the top of the mountain, but the only one that will get you there is your own path. And your own path is a combination of joy and heartache. If you conform, your own conformity keeps you away from this because it keeps trying to protect you. The ego is the intention of protection. It tries to protect you against your own heartache, but you already have the heartache. How many times have you heard me say the only heart worth having is a broken one? It's the contrite heart, that lowly heart that reaches out and says, I need help. So if you're not going to protect your heart, and you're going to recognize that the broken heart has its own kind of beauty and poignancy, I ask you, is there something keeping you from doing what your heart is yearning for, longing for? Something that you must do, but you don't have to suffer a broken heart, which you already have, in order to do it? All right, so keep talking to one another. You know, I always like to say, like in the first book of the Bible, it says, let there be, that the spoken word brings forth things into being. That's called the Logos principle. Do you realize the power of your own words to materialize reality based on what you say, what you think? Yeah. So, conversations are so important because conversations should replenish you and give you the nourishment that isn't material bread. You have to enter conversations with the supposition that this other person may have something really interesting to say. Really interesting to reveal. Will you listen, or you want to dominate the conversation? So I love hearing what other people have to say. All right, finally, end up with my little tips on affirmations here. Most people don't understand that when we make a positive affirmation, you have to sustain it over time. You have to create a new mental attitude, a new mental setup that preserves this positive attitude that you have long enough for it to materialize. Because otherwise, you do what's called building followed by wrecking. You start to put the bricks up, and then halfway through, you take the bricks down. At the end of the day, there won't be any structure because you keep destroying it. So you make a positive affirmation, and then you doubt yourself, and you start speaking negative stuff, or you don't follow up, and all of a sudden it falls apart, and you don't understand. You did that yourself. You started to build, and then you ended up wrecking. So don't destroy. All right? And how do you do that? Here's a quick affirmation. I let what I want to be the point of attraction that sets the tone of what to come. I let what I want to be a point of attraction to set the tone for what is to come. Have a great day.